So I've been asked quite a bit about how I might suggest that some seniors remain positive and active during this pandemic. So many people are isolated, it seems. And there's data that there is about a threefold higher prevalence of depression in the population since this started. Now, it does affect all age groups, but we're talking about the elderly, and it seems that they might be a little more resilient than we thought. But there's about a 1 in 4 rate of elders reporting anxiety or depression during the pandemic. And this is all stemming probably from the isolation that's sort of been forced by necessity. So I've given this some thought and done some digging around and come up with some suggestions. One is keep your purpose. That might mean you have to maintain a schedule, even though you're not getting up to go to breakfast, to your group activities and things. But I think it helps to try and do that. Even if you're not doing the face-to-face activities anymore, maybe you substitute something else. Get up, get ready, get dressed, do a Zoom call with a loved one or phone call. You can also try to continue to do some of the other things you enjoy, whatever hobbies you have, if it's working puzzles, doing crafts. And then what you might do is try to make sure to tell someone else about it throughout the day. Share that with some of the folks that you see on a regular basis. If you're not tech savvy, maybe somebody can help you post on social media about those. And then you can get some feedback and start some conversations about that. One idea that I read about that really is exciting to me is you can work on life stories at this time. If you have a lot of time on your hands, you can start telling your own life story, your history, the history of your family, or your loved ones, your children that may or may not want to talk about these things just yet. And there's an organization called StoryCorps that helps people document and share their stories. They have a really nice website, and they have a list of questions that prompt or cue people to kind of get a conversation started. What are you most proud of in your life? Who was the most influential teacher you had? When was the last time you cried and why? When was the last time you laughed, a good belly laugh, and why? Those sorts of things. I know we've spent the last probably decade watching more electronics sort of permeate our lives, and we've complained about it a little bit. But this is probably the time to embrace those electronic devices and tools because they put us in touch with people around the world if we want to. For example, YouTube is a good thing that a lot of seniors may not really have harnessed, but you can watch any kind of content and comment on them, and you can start a conversation with someone. Also, podcasts, you can find podcasts and audiobooks about just about anything. And I would recommend that folks, whether they're living at home and feeling isolated, or if they're in a group living situation and still feeling isolated, to investigate those things. Also, music. I'm a big fan of music. Music is a big part of my life and has been since I was a kid. You know, these days with 1 or 2 music services, you can find about any genre and time period, including YouTube. We talked about that, and there's not really, you have to watch some ads. There's not really a charge for that. So you can find old TV shows, old movies, and old music genres. The classic movies I alluded to, those are kind of hard to find, but if you look around on YouTube and such, you can probably find those. And then I'd like to suggest people really try to get some conversations started with this. Maybe you have to get a couple of like-minded people together and again, utilize the technology, but maybe you can try Zoom or Skype or FaceTime and almost have like a book club, but have a movie club with loved ones. You know, you can, if you don't have the bandwidth or the data, you can maybe watch them at the same time or watch a movie and then talk about it the way people will do Bible studies or devotionals. They'll read a book, read some verses in the Bible, journal on it, and then get together and talk about it. Well, if you can't sit face to face, then you can do it electronically perhaps. Another thing that I like to suggest folks could try is teaching others, whether you're a teacher by training or not. You know, if you like to cook, teach someone how to cook. Talk them through it while you're doing it yourself perhaps. Teach the crafts that are kind of near and dear to your heart. The other thing that's kind of left out during the pandemic is exercise. Even if it's just sitting in a chair and you can't get up and walk the halls, there are lots of things we can try to engineer in an enclosed area to get some exercise. Again, and maybe while we're distanced and masked up, maybe if you're in a group setting, we might be able to do some of that in a large dining room, things like that, or even just while you're on the phone or FaceTime with a family member. So I've also seen some long-term care communities. They've been pretty creative under the circumstances. They've done some hallway events. We've been involved in my personal life with kind of a birthday party on wheels. Someone get a little parade, people will come by, wish someone a happy birthday, stop and blare some crazy birthday music, whatever. You can do that in the hallway of some long-term care centers as well. Maybe you could have mobile musicians, a mobile music box of some sort. Another idea that came to me when I was thinking about this was in a group setting, maybe on a hall or a wing of a community, you could create an album of old photographs taken from all the neighbors, all the residents there. And they could pass it down. Like one day a person could have this photo album and look at it. You can make a game out of it. You could have a photo and blank space and say, let's play a guess who. Who was this in 1957? Or why don't you caption this for us? What do you think was happening? And then keep a record. Everyone could do that, and then it just creates some fun. And when everyone can get back together, it'll be a good time to go over that. Maybe it's a time to write a good old-fashioned letter. Get a pen pal or two, and just see if you could get someone to commit to writing once a week or so. It really would stave off some of the loneliness. It's also a time to sort through photos, keepsakes, trinkets, things like that. If you've been trying to find time to go through that drawer with all of your old collectibles and figure out which ones you really want to keep, this might be a good time to do that. Finally, there's a chance to just interview a loved one or have a loved one interview you, back to the life story situation. Or maybe it's just something you would like to record some kind of a message, a birthday greeting to someone who's not with you. So I think, this is not an exhaustive list. It's just something to help us think outside the box a little bit and maybe help our elder patients who are either at home or maybe in a community setting but still isolated because visitation has been curtailed and people are kind of still in their own private quarters. So I think that's probably a good place to start.